Have you ever felt like you're running on a hamster wheel? You're busy all day, every day, your to-do list is a mile long, but when you look back at your week, your month, or even your year, nothing in your life has actually moved forward. It's like you're sprinting in place, getting more and more exhausted, but the scenery never changes. You're not alone in this feeling. In fact, this modern-day struggle is a timeless trap, one that even a young samurai, centuries ago, fell into. This is his story. Before we dive into the tale of Hajime Kurataka, if you've ever felt that same sense of being busy but not productive, let me know in the comments. And hey, while you're down there, hitting that like and subscribe button really helps the channel grow. Your support means the world. Now, let's meet Hajime Kurataka. Picture a young man in his early 20s, fire in his eyes, clad in light armor with a katana at his hip. He's ambitious, driven, and carries the weight of his aspirations on his shoulders. Hajime lived by a simple, yet deeply flawed, philosophy. To become a legendary samurai, he had to be constantly, relentlessly busy. He believed that every waking moment filled with activity was a step closer to greatness. If he wasn't sweating, he wasn't succeeding. If his schedule wasn't packed from dawn until dusk, he was failing. But something wasn't right. You could see it in the way he trained. He would spend hours in the bamboo grove, his blade a blur of motion. He'd strike again and again, sweat pouring down his face, his muscles screaming in protest. Yet, despite all this ferocious effort, his cuts were imprecise. His swings, meant to be powerful and clean, often missed their mark, grazing the bamboo instead of slicing through it. His blade, which should have been getting sharper with every practice session, felt duller in his hands. It was as if his very spirit was getting weaker, not stronger. The more he pushed, the more his skills seemed to erode. Hajime's days were a whirlwind of frantic activity. A montage of his life would look like pure dedication. He'd be up before the sun, practicing his forms until his arms felt like lead. Then he'd rush to his desk, frantically scribbling strategic plans and studying ancient texts on warfare. No sooner was that done, he'd be seen scrubbing the dojo floors with a manic intensity. Then he'd be off again, running through the forest trails, not for endurance, but as if escaping some unseen demon. His schedule was filled to the brim with tasks he believed were essential. He trained, he studied, he cleaned, he ran. His days were undeniably full, but his soul felt profoundly empty. He was moving, always moving, but going nowhere. From a distance, under the shade of a wise old cherry blossom tree, his master watched. He was a silent observer to Hajime's frenetic dance of futility. The master's face was a mask of calm, but his eyes held a deep understanding, a touch of sadness even. He didn't intervene, not yet. He knew this path. He had seen countless others walk it, driven by the same misguided belief that motion equals progress. He knew exactly where this road of relentless busyness leads, to burnout, to disillusionment, and ultimately, to failure. He waited, knowing that Hajime had to reach the end of his own rope before he could ever grasp a new one. The breaking point was near. One evening, as dusk settled over the dojo, Hajime finally collapsed. He fell to his knees, utterly exhausted, the carefully stacked scrolls and papers he was carrying scattering across the floor around him like fallen leaves. He stared at the mess, a perfect metaphor for his chaotic life. A deep, bone-weary exhaustion washed over him, heavier than any armor. But even in this state of collapse, he didn't dare to truly stop. A voice of panic whispered in his mind, "If I stop working, even for a moment, I'll fall behind. Someone else will get stronger, someone else will take my place." Fear, not ambition, was now his primary fuel. He was trapped in a cycle of his own making, terrified to stop, yet unable to continue. The next morning, driven by that same fear, Hajime was back in the training yard, determined to shatter his limits. He gathered all his remaining strength, all his frustration, all his desperation, and channeled it into a single, powerful overhead strike. It was meant to be his strongest, a testament to his unending effort. But as the blade sliced through the air, it stopped dead. Not against a training dummy, not against a thick bamboo stalk, but against the calm, steady pressure of 2 fingers. His master stood before him, effortlessly halting the full force of his attack. Hajime stared in disbelief, his arms trembling not just from the effort, but from the shock. The master slowly lowered Hajime's sword, his expression not of disappointment, but of gentle compassion. He looked into his student's weary eyes, and with a soft smile, he spoke the words that would shatter Hajime's world. "Hajime," he said, his voice calm and clear. "You are not progressing." He paused, letting the weight of the statement sink in. "You are merely busy." It wasn't an accusation. It was a diagnosis, a simple, profound truth that cut deeper than any blade. Hajime had mistaken the frantic buzzing of activity for the focused hum of progress. In that singular, stunning moment of clarity, it was as if a veil had been lifted from Hajime's eyes. He looked past his master, towards his small room. He saw his desk, piled high with scrolls and notes. He saw his meticulously planned schedules, every minute accounted for. And he finally saw it for what it was, a collection of tasks, a flurry of motion, but completely lacking in any real direction. He was polishing his armor when his sword needed sharpening. He was studying maps of distant lands when he hadn't mastered the ground beneath his feet. His life was a whirlwind of motion, but it had no center, no purpose. It was all activity with no real achievement. The realization was painful, but it was also liberating. From that day forward, Hajime's approach to his life and his training underwent a radical change. He took a metaphorical blade to his own schedule. He cut away the distractions, the non-essential tasks, the busy work he had convinced himself was important. His training was simplified, stripped down to its core elements. No more frantic, unfocused swings. Instead, he dedicated hours to a single, perfect cut. He replaced frantic study with quiet meditation, seeking clarity within himself before seeking knowledge from scrolls. He identified his one true goal not just to be a samurai, but to achieve a state of effortless mastery and aligned every single action with that singular, powerful intention. The transformation was not immediate, but it was profound. One morning, weeks later, Hajime stood before a thick bamboo stalk. He took a deep, calming breath, his mind still and clear. There was no frantic energy, no desperate push, there was only focus. He drew his blade, and in one fluid, almost silent motion, he struck. The cut was perfect. The bamboo stalk stood motionless for a beat, a flawless diagonal line appearing on its surface, before the top half slid cleanly off, landing softly on the ground. For the first time, his blade had struck true. It wasn't the result of more effort, but of less. It was the result of focused, intentional action. As Hajime stood on a hill overlooking the valley, the wind gently blowing through his hair, a newfound calm settled over him. He was no longer the frantic, anxious young man chasing his own tail. He was a samurai, poised, focused, and powerful. His story is a timeless reminder for all of us. Being busy does not equal being productive. Running in a million directions at once will only leave you exhausted and in the exact same place. True progress, true power comes from clarity. It comes from choosing your direction with intention. Cut away the noise, focus on what truly matters, and you, too, can become unstoppable. If this story inspired you, if it resonated with that part of you that craves clarity over chaos, please show your support. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment with your own experience, and subscribe for more stories that help sharpen the blade of your own life. Thank you for watching.